Good to be back. Good to see some of you and to be seen by you again. Last week, we were focusing on what's going on interpersonally. This week is interpersonally. And there's really a false distinction between the two, because there's always something going on here and here in the midst of others. But I wanted to separate it out, but they really go together back and forth. Underneath your chair is the handout from last week and this week. And did Madison fix up the MS Word? Madison, thank you. Pass that on to her. I appreciated it. Got it? Pass it on. All right. So on week 2, first, does anybody have anything you want to share of what the Father, Son, or Holy Spirit did within you from last week? And this is when most people just keep your head down so the professor doesn't look at you.
Yeah, last week was hard because I felt like I was confronted with a lot of things internally that felt new and raw and vulnerable. And so after church, I was just having a one-on-one talk with God, and I feel more free though, more free, more, yeah, it was good.
Cool. I'm thankful for the freedom and the hardness. They go together, don't they? Anybody else?
Yeah, I feel like I really learned how to get to the root of myself. I'd never heard it explained that way before. The knee-jerk reaction, the emotion is so much deeper than the feeling in and of itself. So inviting the Holy Spirit into that space, I don't know, I feel like it sort of changed me differently in comparison to when I'm just dealing with the surface level of how I'm feeling. I don't know, it just felt freeing, really freeing.
Hallelujah. So there's 2 freedoms.
I just wanted to come behind that on just having that conversation with yourselves and saying that in this house we'll serve the Lord. And that really wrecked me. So.
Oh, yes, sir. What? You got an LSU shirt on. That's okay.
Yeah, when you said we were responsible for our own happiness, I had an incident with somebody. Satan came at me, and I gave myself peace. Said, you're not gonna get to me this time, Satan. And I felt prideful, and then moments later, somebody else came at me with something, and I blew it. I was feeling prideful, and I just went crazy. Yeah.
Thank you for that honest confession. Okay, what's the history with the finger snapping? Oh, you like that? Okay. All right, so week 2. So everybody see week 2? That's where we are. All right. The interpersonal lens. Self, last week, self and me, or self in parts. This is self and others. Self in the midst of other selves. They could be strangers, family, friends, partners, people you work with, spouses, etc. When you look at that list, the first question, which group or persons do you consistently feel the most internal emotional reaction? Others, spouse, friends, family, which context do you find you consistently get more jacked up inside? Children. Family. Parents. okay? Think about your family right now. Do you feel anything in your body when you just imagine seeing them and getting together? And is that in your body peaceful and joyful and settled? No. And when you think about you in the midst of kids, and you can picture that, how's your body feel?
Partially happy, partially.
That's a great diagnostic category. Ah! Okay. A couple B is deciding to go out to eat, and one partner chose the restaurant. During the meal, the partner that chose the restaurant asked, "How's your food?" Okay? I don't know if you've ever been in that situation, or it could be, at home and somebody says, "How's your food?" What do you instantly think about or feel inside? What's that? Okay, you feel played because there's something in that question. Anybody else? So, how did you like the casserole I brought over for Thanksgiving?
I would probably say it's good, but it probably wasn't the best.
Okay? So just step back and think the question, what is it that's going on inside of us in the midst of others that we quickly can start thinking of not being truthful, being dishonest, shading it a little bit, feeling played? What is it? Okay? There's something in the emotional realm of that interaction that it's hard to keep growing to let your yes be yes and your no be no. All right.
Would you really say, no, I did not like the casserole?
Judy, what do you think I would say?
I think you would say, well, there could be several lenses in that. It could be a very direct, no, this isn't my favorite casserole. I could see you doing that. Or you'd go, are you really wanting to know my opinion about if I really like this, or are you needing some affirmation? Or you might say, wow, when people ask me that, I become so nervous because I start feeling like I need to say something that I might not say that someone likes. And since you did ask, I'm going to go with that and say, this isn't my favorite casserole. So that's how I could probably do 2 or 3 others.
Well,
but that's plenty.
That's good. So yes. Okay. And that happens several times with Judy early on in our marriage. Okay. The first one, we got married in May. She gave me a surprise birthday party. After everybody left, she started bawling and goes, "You didn't like the party." And I go,
I did not. You said it nicely. I don't like surprises, and I don't like German chocolate cake.
and I remember adding a piece, "I thank you for all your work and preparation in getting this done. I acknowledge that wasn't easy before text or emails. Thank you."
I really laugh when I look back at that because my family, we did not ask people questions. You just assumed and did it. And so it was quite an eye-opener for me to look and go, wow, I gave what I wanted for myself. I don't even think I was thinking that so hugely about Eddie, but like, oh, this is what I would love. A big surprise party. Oh, and I love German chocolate cake. So that was funny to look back.
It was. You really,
Those things evolve of really seeing yourself in that. I don't think I put all that together at that time.
and I love how that is connecting from intrapersonal with interpersonal simultaneously. All right, C. One person texted several friends and said they wanted to gather for breakfast on Saturday. 5 people responded and said they would be at the restaurant at 9. The same friend that is always late is not there at 9. At 9:20, you guys are wondering if you should order. A text to the friend goes unanswered, so you order. At 9:40, the person shows up, and their feelings become hurt because the rest of you didn't wait. This friend gets upset at you and always has excuses for why they were late. It feels like the gathering was hijacked by emotions. Anybody relate to this? And what is it like? Anger. Anger, and you're mad inside, and you're confusion. 2 ways to go, and both are important. Wow, Father, what do I become so angry about? What's so confusing in me? And then it can be an interpersonal conversation. You said you were going to be here at 9. And we got tired of waiting. Next time, show up on time if you want. Ooh. Right? Now, okay, let's try something different. Oh, it's really okay, but it's not true. All right. This week, we got this beautiful Christmas card. Look at this. We knew these people in Abilene. They have 3 kids, 3 in-laws, and I think 28 grandkids. Not really, but there's quite a few. And here comes this beautiful letter that they wrote, 2 pages in color. And their kids are in 3 different parts of the United States and doing wonderful. I mean, I hadn't even got to the 3rd paragraph, and I noticed inside. What do you imagine I noticed inside?
Well, that's good for them, but I'm over here.
Yes. I started going, comparing myself. I'm less than. It was hard for me to even celebrate their blessings because I made it all about whom? Me. It's like, here it goes again, how it shows up in so many places. And then, you know what? I think I said, I'm going to talk about that Sunday, and I put this in the folder, and I haven't even read it.
I know.
And I'm thinking,
I'm wonderful because I have read it. I have a attitude about it. I can be so noble and think I'm so righteous.
well, may the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
He keeps revealing that to me. That I'm not so noble
Oh,
and grand.
I thought you were saying he's revealing your nobleness.
No.
I think you're on the.
He's showing me you're not so noble.
Yeah. I think you're on the wrong channel with him. Number E. A couple, their son, daughter-in-law, 2 kids are gathering with us in NOLA for a few activities. In the text thread, we asked 2 or 3 times a very clear question. It goes unanswered. Several things are written. Other things are written. In the morning, the simple question is asked again, and it goes unanswered. How's Eddie doing inside? Yep. Here it's coming, right? We make a call at that time. We asked if it would be good to call, and it went to voicemail. Parts of me are filled with anger and rage. I know I need to own my own actions and responses. I'm asking inside what tripped me up so much in lieu of their not answering the question and then not answering the call. And this is what I do. I come downstairs. Judy's on the back porch, and we have 15 minutes before we see somebody. And I'm going, I feel such rage and anger. I could take a baseball bat and just start hitting things, and I don't know what that is in me. I'm thankful the self was talking for the parts, acknowledging that that's a part of me that's in there, but they weren't running the show. Okay? But my body was juiced. So I know Judy was praying and listening, and all of a sudden, it just showed up. That was my family of origin. I would ask questions a lot, and they wouldn't answer. And it felt like this for me. Where's the wall? It felt like that as a kid. And it's funny, just now doing that, I can see me in Tucson asking, and they wouldn't answer, or they'd ignore it. It felt beating my head against the wall. Knowing that, did everything come back into place inside at that moment? No. But there was a greater peace. I knew what the battle was about me, and it wasn't about these other people. Okay? Thoughts, comments? Okay? Ponder those thoughts. Now, this is Matthew 3, and this is out of the Message. So this is Jesus' citizens, stranger, and religious group. There's four groups in here. Then, starting in verse 1, then Jesus went back in the meeting place where he found a man with a crippled hand. Who would like to stand up and be a man and have your hand crippled? Somebody, okay, stand up. You can be a woman. Okay, stand up. Here's a person. Oh, crippled hand. Good job. Stay right where you are. The Pharisees had their eyes on Jesus to see if he would heal her, hoping to catch him in a Sabbath infraction. Now, would everybody right here stand up and be a Pharisee? And Bianca, will you stand here and be Jesus? Okay, now, Pharisees, you are trying to catch him in a Sabbath infraction. So you got to get those smiles off your face. Ooh. Do you feel those faces looking at you?
Yes.
And do you feel full of joy and happiness?
Nope.
What do you feel?
Awkwardness.
Awkwardness. Good. Way to pay attention. Jesus, do you notice those faces?
Yeah, I noticed both.
Both. Yeah. Oh, there you, yeah, get that smile off. Then Jesus spoke to the people. To everybody, what kind of action suits the Sabbath best? Doing good or doing evil? Helping people or leaving them helpless. No one said a word. He looked them in the eye, one after another, angry, furious at their hard-nosed religion. He said to the man, to the girl, "Hold out your hand." She did, and it was as good as new. The Pharisees got out as fast as they could, sputtering about how they would join forces with Herod's followers and ruin him. Sputter, sputter, sputter. Thank you. Thank you. Again, Jesus, in his being, in the midst of others, felt and experienced all these things. Please consider coming to him with everything. Even if you react to the sputtering and let that anger and rage that he felt take over, come back to him. 7 times 70, he says, I'm with you. Let's keep going. Keep coming back. Okay? All right. How you doing? Your name? Nola. You met your mom, and I thought it was Nola. I have a son, well, we do, named Arizona. Yeah, so we're raising Arizona. And we did a little better job than the movie. You probably never heard of the movie Raising Arizona. Have you? Nope. Anybody seen Raising Arizona? Yes. Oh, yeah. The old people know that one. Okay. I won't go over all these next things, but you can take them home. So, the force for individuality and togetherness. Inside of each person is assumed to be a force for individuality and a force for togetherness. Individuality is a what? Biologically rooted life force. More basic than just being a function of the brain that propels an organism to follow its own directives, to be an independent and indistinct entity. Oh, no, independent.
Okay. I think I'm on the wrong part.
You are. Go back one.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
Would you say that again?
You're right.
Into the microphone. I thought we'd give him a live example of self in the midst of others. So a human is assumed to have various biological and psychological systems that permit him or her to function as a separate person and to follow her or his own compass, okay? It's hardwired. I believe that. I think that God put that in us. To stand on our own 2 feet, we'll have to stand before God, give an account. That's on me, okay? Can't blame parents, can't blame the pastors. Whatever I'm choosing, it's on me. I'm responsible to take charge of myself. Then there's this other force, togetherness, which is a biologically rooted life force, more basic than being just a function of the brain, that propels an organism to follow the directives of others, to be dependent, connected, and indistinct entity. A human being has various biological and psychological systems that incline her or him to function as part of the group and to follow the group's compass. That's the part that we connect and relate and want to be with other people, okay? We are social creatures. Both of those forces are in us. And so even coming to the point of saying, where Would you like to go eat lunch today? Judy, the togetherness force, she wants to consider whom? Me. But individuality force wants her to consider whom? Her. Guess what? I've got those same two things. They're going on in me, going on in her. It's there, okay? All right. I love this C. Giving up your individuality to be together is as defeating in the long run as giving up your relationship to maintain your individuality. Either way, you end up being less of a person with less of a relationship. Okay? I would say the majority of people I listen to and interact with, when push comes to shove, they're going to deny the individuality force and go along with the togetherness force until it gets to a certain point and they just go, forget it. I ain't coming back to these family gatherings anymore. Oh, yeah, Judy, just forget it. Friedman, he was a rabbi, therapist, business consultant in D.C., said, the togetherness force is blinder to the value of the individuality force, meaning that the individuality force has to be more vigilant because we are more prone to say that casserole, when you're feeling that togetherness force, oh, how's the connection going to go? Is she or he going to be hurt? We're more likely to sell ourselves out in the kingdom, and we have a pseudo connection going on. That's what we tend to do. Okay? Thoughts, comments, questions on these two forces, or anything about where's a good place for lunch? Yes, sir.
I think that's why many of us struggle to keep like long-term relationships. Like that's why. Like I think about long-term relationships that I haven't been able to keep, and it's usually because at some point I've let myself go long enough, and then after a while you get upset with the other person, but you're really mad at you.
Yep. That's your wife. That is spot on. Because there's always going to be issues that you're going to have to deal with in relation to somebody else. And we tend to think we can wait and find a way around it, but at some point, it's going to have to be head on. Let's talk, okay? Oh, can't we? I think we might, get around it. This is just too hard. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Your wife just said she gets a lot of practice with you. What's that? Oh.
How do you have togetherness at like work where you have a boss or something where you're like, if you say no, you feel like you'll lose something from something that you really, you've worked for that, and if you don't do what they say, or you lie to make them like, I'm a hard worker, how do you do that?
There is no easy answer. Okay? So let's look at this next thing and we'll see if we can get into that. Yeah, circle back. Look at B, Roman numeral 4b. This process, differentiation, is the lifelong process of striving to keep your being in balance through the reciprocal external, which are conversations and interactions with others, and internal, within one's own beliefs, values, thoughts, heart, soul, and feelings. So this is the internal process, self-definition and self-regulation. So, all I would say, in this process of differentiation, growing yourself while being in relation to others, it is a journey moving up of God. How can I let my yes be yes? How can I be shrewd as snakes and innocent as doves? I'm not sure how to navigate me in this context. Let me seek wisdom from other people. But you're moving in that trajectory. It's not just here's what you do. Okay? Because I can't fully say for you. Because military, right? It's got its own context. Okay? And in that context, it's different than if I'm working at Walmart. It has different dynamics. But us trying to be disciples of Christ in relation to others in these settings, each person's got some idiosyncratic work. Okay? So keep enjoying this process and answering questions and discussing that with others because it's important. Yo.
Would you say that the first step, and this may be obvious, but it's just to be aware that we are all prone to do this? I mean, especially I feel like in settings like this, where you're kind of supposed to have it all together and be kind and be considerate, that like we lose ourself quickly and are totally unaware of it, especially like in a church setting. And do you find that that's common more so around these parts?
I have a 3-letter answer, and it's one word. Y-E-S. Yes. It's harder. This is a culture of its own, church, to really, me to show up in myself, good, bad, or ugly. Okay? Yeah. Be aware of it. Talk about it. And you can even, like that, you can have a meta conversation about this dynamic of how hard it is to grow your individuality in the midst of the church togetherness force. Have a conversation about that. Kind of step back and look at it, going, oh, yeah, okay? Look at it without judgment, without condemnation. Let's just discuss it. Bring it into the light. Makes a huge difference. All right. So we're going to go down to common misconceptions of differentiation. Differentiation is not to be equated with similar sounding ideas such as individuation, autonomy, or independence. First, well, hello, Happy. First of all, it has less to do with the person's behavior than with his or her emotional being, okay? It's who you are internally, emotionally, which is that biological, deeper stuff. Second, there is a sense of connectedness to the concept that prevents the mere gaining of distance, leaving, or cutting off as ways to achieve it. This is huge. It's not individuation, autonomy, or independence, because there's a connectedness to the concept that prevents the mere gaining of distance, leaving or cutting off as ways to achieve it. You can go to a family reunion and you can hold your breath for a day in that family reunion and think, how much longer? Okay? That's different. When you leave a situation and you start feeling better because you left, that's different than the process of differentiation. Because there is a connectedness to the other person that heightens this conversation. But through that process, like Jesus, as Hebrews says, learned obedience from what he suffered. Okay? Never sinned, but he learned obedience. He went through feeling that rage from the Pharisees looking and nobody answering, not dealing with, he felt that stuff, didn't sin, and he grew in that same process. Can you imagine right now if a group of Antioch bigwigs from all over the country, let's take 20 of them, showed up? Stand up, Blake. And these are all the Antioch bigwigs, and they're not happy with you, okay? Give him that look.
Wow. It's intimidating.
You feel it, don't you?
Oh, deep down, yeah.
Deep down. Yes. Okay, thank you. Is there anything pathologically wrong with Blake for feeling that deep down? No. What he's going to do with it. Okay? So you could, let me just cut off and not really deal with it, but they're going to say something, or you can move into that emotional space and go, let's go, Lord, have this conversation. And the process of that over time is differentiation, where it grinds off the rough edges of us to be more and more like Christ if he were you and me. It's, to me, synonymous with the process of sanctification. Okay? It's not just changing behaviors. It's not just having a different belief. It's molding the heart, the body, and soul so everything becomes more increasingly in sync as Christ would if he were you. Now turn the page. There's two paragraphs that I want to highlight. The top of the last page, the number 3, the self-determination of differentiation does not imply selfishness. Differentiation is not about Eddie always putting himself ahead of everyone else or Judy. You can choose to be guided by the best interest of others, even at the price of your own individual agenda, okay? It's important. You can choose to be guided by others' best interest, even at the price of your individual agenda. But it doesn't leave you feeling like you've been ruled by the needs of others. Make that distinction where you feel ruled by the needs of others when you more freely choose somebody else's interest, but it has a different motivation to it, a different purpose. As you become more differentiated, you recognize those you love are separate people just like you. Judy and I have had to become more separated over the course of our 37 years so we may have more of a true interdependent oneness in a connection. So, when Eddie says something ugly, okay, do you believe I would ever say anything ugly to my favorite wife? Say yes. Yes. Do you think Eddie would ever roll his eyes and sigh at my favorite wife? Say yes. 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 Judy can see those words, those sighs, and she may think, he's really talking about me. She's growing to go, Eddie's a separate person. That's his ugliness. It doesn't have to be a reflection of Judy. even though it's addressed to her. It says more about me than her. Okay? She's a separate person, I'm separate. Then, what they want for themselves becomes as important to you as what you want for yourself. You value their interest on par with yours. You can see merit in their positions, even when they contradict or interfere with your own. Judy, I hear your thoughts about what we should do with the kids at Christmas. I hear it, I value it, I see it different. Anything you want to? We are more able, by engaging ourselves in relation to the other, intrapersonally and inter, to have these conversations. And it never goes, we just agree to disagree. It's worked out more fully, where one can go, okay, I will freely do it your way. That makes sense. And yet another time, I may stand up and go, I believe this very strongly. This is a 10 for me. Judy's gone, it's an 8 for me. Okay. This process takes how long? Say lifetime.
Lifetime.
Thank you. Good answer. Okay? Moving in that direction. Okay? It's a process. Then lastly, look at the last 5 things, but the category says differentiation always involves emotional connection. This is so different from individuation, independence, and autonomy. It always has emotional connection. Look at the last one. Number 5, meaningful sacrifice involves free choice rather than emotional entanglement and guilt. Anybody in here besides Eddie ever make decisions of how you're going to be feeling out of guilt or shame or emotionally entangled? Who has never done that? Well, you're too young. I understand that. Okay, so pay attention from last week interpersonally. It's like, wow, am I doing this out of what I'm feeling emotionally in this relationship? Shame, guilt, it feels sticky. Is that why I'm choosing to do what I'm doing? Or am I freely choosing? Because I believe it's the Spirit and God's guiding me this, and I believe this is right. When families and other relationships have the use of us, there's no choice involved. They're not indifferent to others, just the opposite. They can choose contact with others out of a deep liking without being compulsively driven toward them or away. That compulsively, okay, that's in the body, biologically, in your heart, you can move towards, but it's not a compulsion to survive. Thank you. All right. So you can take these things with you. May you discuss this with each other and say, look at number 2, Roman numeral 2. And if you want to, again, as last week, make some paper airplanes, and they fly well. All right. Blake asked, whose child is that anyway? You didn't, Lena, I'm proud of you. You didn't take the bait, did you? Way to go. You are growing. Blake's really helped you a lot. Did that get you? Not yet? Shoot. All right. Blake asked to have 15 minutes of question and answer. And will you walk around with this mic?
Yep. All right. Who wants to say something with a question or a ponderment or...
So we're all going into the holidays where we're going to be spending a lot of time with family and friends that we maybe haven't seen in a good bit. And you kind of touched on this a little bit about honoring yourself, but also honoring just a relationship with your family and friends and the people you're interacting with. Is there like a one line or maybe just a go-to when you feel like you're getting into a conversation or something that you just have been there before and you know it's not going to be fruitful? Is there just like a phrase or something that you can kind of use to segue out of those types of situations?
I'll let Eddie ponder that, and I'm going to give you an example because I probably do better with that. But there's two that I've gotten to work on recently. One was we recently gathered for Thanksgiving, and the biggest first answer I'd say is pay attention to what's going on inside of myself. If my heart starts beating and I notice I want to defend some sort of position, that's usually not really good for me because I can be very curt and very brutal pretty fast to back people off. But I got to grow in two things. Recently, my mother lives closer to my other two siblings, and I've chosen to live far away. It does require my sisters more work, bringing her and taking her. And I feel guilt and shame about that at times. But I told myself, I'm not going to show up kind of like with my tail between my legs and weak, so bad. And I really felt a difference inside. I said, Lord, don't let me live out of guilt or shame, but let me show up and do and talk and say the things I can and do what I can do and do that with the best essence. And that I felt some bodily different good things for me in that than when I go in kind of ducking and doing my head. The other example, my son, our son, lived in the same town as my parents going to college. And my father kept coming to me and saying, I've called Arizona, he doesn't call me back. And I felt being pulled into their relationship. And I had to do this quite a lot. And I really felt connected and not ugly. And I would say, Daddy, I really hear that for you. But I want you in Arizona to work that out yourselves. And I said it differently many different times. But I really had to work hard because that is another area. Then I could put it on Arizona. Please call your grandparents. Please do this. And I could say that, but I can do it, doing it to him in shame or guilt or going, these are some things I'd love for you to think about. And so that would be my answer to that question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
My answer is no, there's not a phrase. Okay? But from the last 2 weeks and what God's been doing in you with the Word and how the Spirit's been using that to divide bone and marrow, may you find one or two things to be preparing for yourself
All right, here we go.
So, family, right? How do you? I know, right? How do you, how do you differentiate and set boundaries? Because I feel like I'll expand a little bit more. I feel like sometimes, as I've been learning what you've been talking about these past 2 weeks, I've learned that sometimes in my desire to set boundaries, I'm realizing that there's something going on inside of me that's making me want to do that. It's not always necessarily that it's wrong to set the boundaries, but that I know I'm trying to run from something when I'm setting them. So like, sort of how do you flesh that out? Like, okay, I need to differentiate, but it's also healthy to have boundaries between me and people.